History changed when a young man named Alexander ascended to the throne of Macedonia in 336 BCE. Later known as Alexander the Great, this young king became one of the most successful commanders in history. Within just 10 years, he transformed the Kingdom of Macedonia into a vast empire stretching from Greece to India, achieving unprecedented success without losing a single battle. Alexander was defined as a skilled strategist and a courageous soldier, achieving great triumphs during his short reign. What were the key factors that made Alexander one of the most important commanders in history? To understand how a young man managed to establish one of the greatest empires in history, we need to delve into the period before Alexander. His success was closely related to the education he received, and we will explore this topic in detail in the later parts of the video. However, Alexander's success was not solely due to his efforts. Other factors during his reign also played a crucial role. In the process that began before Alexander's birth, various factors and individuals influenced the outcome. This development marked a turning point for the Kingdom of Macedonia. Until his death in 336 BCE, Philip had made Macedonia a much stronger state politically and militarily than its rivals. If not for the reforms Philip implemented during his reign, it might not have been possible for his son Alexander to embark on extraordinary campaigns and conquests that reached the far corners of the world. During his rule, Philip strengthened Macedonia as a dominant regional power and effectively utilized his army. In 371 BCE, the significant victory against the Persians further strengthened Macedonia's dominance. During the time the film spent as a hostage in Thebes, it had the opportunity to closely monitor these developments. Moreover, Hephaestion, the chief architect of Thebes' military superiority, returned to Macedonia in 364 BCE. After Philip's death, his son, who ascended to the throne in 359 BCE, had received education among the Thebans for years and had the chance to closely observe military developments in Greece. Now was the time to put these observations into practice. Philip organized his army similar to the Spartan army, one of the most successful military structures in the ancient Greek world. Spartans, professional soldiers with years of training, but it was challenging to say the same for Philip's previous Macedonian army. During this period, the Macedonian army mainly consisted of units from the peasant class who did not serve professionally as soldiers. We know that the army was predominantly composed of infantry units, but Macedonian cavalry accompanied these infantry units. When Philip ascended to the throne, one of his initial tasks was to increase the army's strength, thereby gaining full control of his country. Now was the time to achieve victories abroad. However, simply increasing the number of the existing army would be insufficient to establish superiority against the threats posed by the Illyrians, Paeonians, and Thracians around Macedonia. Philip needed radical changes. The prevalent warfare tactic in Greece at that time involved phalanxes forming a wall with the upper part of their bodies protected, launching attacks with their spears. The spear, the most crucial weapon of the time, was generally about 3.5 meters long. However, Philip aimed to gain an advantage by reducing the size of existing shields and extending the length of the spears, thus developing the sarissas. Unlike classic Greek spears, the sarissas were 4 to 6 meters long. The spear's shaft was made from the abundant juniper trees found in Macedonia and its surroundings, with 2 different iron sections at the tip and the back. These long spears were designed to be balanced for effective use during enemy attacks. The use of sarissas provided a significant advantage to Macedonian soldiers during clashes. When they clashed, Macedonians could deliver a lethal blow before the enemy soldiers' spears reached them. However, sarissas were not very practical after the clash, so Macedonian soldiers also carried a smaller spear and a sword. Thanks to these reforms, Philip made Macedonia one of the region's most powerful kingdoms and invaded a large part of Greece. When Alexander ascended to the throne after Philip's death, He inherited a kingdom that was stronger and more organized than his father's. Alexander's successes were directly related to the quality of education he received. As a student of Aristotle, Alexander took courses in various fields such as philosophy, logic, mathematics, physics, and geography. This education, especially his geographical knowledge, proved useful in his future campaigns. Alexander continued his father's successful tactics and achieved great victories against his enemies. The successful sieges conducted in the later years of Philip also demonstrated the development of the Macedonian army's capabilities. However, the Macedonians would develop their true skills in siege warfare during Alexander's reign. Alexander was not a leader who acted arbitrarily. He was aware that maintaining order in war or peace required merit, and he knew that the task should be entrusted to the master. For example, producing siege tools was the job of engineers. Therefore, Alexander needed the best engineers of his time to produce the best siege weapons. Second Philip had worked with an engineer named Polyeidos, who produced siege weapons for him. This siege tower made by Polyeidos included catapults, a ladder, and operating mechanisms. In Alexander's era, Giutta, Polyeidos' student and chief engineer, took over Polyeidos' role. Giutta was knowledgeable not only in the construction of siege tools but also in siege strategies. In the challenging Siege of Tyre during Alexander's era, Giutta played an active role and became known as the Hawk of Tyre. During Alexander's time, small cities could usually be taken using ladders. However, Alexander aimed not only to be a local king but also to rule the world. And for this, he needed to capture the major cities of the Persians. Therefore, he had to use the best technologies of the time. Giutta constructed movable siege towers from the inside, battering rams with upper protection, and large cranes used to demolish city walls. Such weapons not only influenced the course of the siege but also provided Alexander with tremendous psychological superiority over his rivals. Second Philip and Alexander utilized the best military technologies of their time and organized their armies accordingly. However, there were other challenges to turning the young Alexander into a great leader. In the first year of his reign, Alexander faced another test. After Philip's death, some towns and regions under Macedonian control revolted to gain their freedom. Alexander attempted to bring the rebels back into line in the north of Thrace and Illyria. Meanwhile, upon hearing a rumor that Alexander had died in battle, the Greek leaders of the Allies started attacking Macedonian garrisons in the region. Upon learning of this new development, Alexander immediately took action, covering a distance of 482 kilometers with his army in just 12 days to reach the Allies and suppress the rebellion. This event illustrated the Greek historian that Alexander not only killed thousands of soldiers in the war but also ordinary citizens. Additionally, 30,000 people were taken as prisoners, and the city was completely destroyed. Alexander's message was clear. Those who rebelled against Macedonia would not only be defeated but also entirely annihilated. Thanks to this determination, Alexander was unquestionably accepted as the new ruler by the Greeks. Alexander's success was attributed to his knowledge of how to effectively use his cavalry and troops in critical moments of the war, especially in battles against the Persians where he had come close to defeat several times. However, in these situations, he could turn the situation in his favor by luring his enemies into different traps. For instance, in the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander's army consisted of about 50,000 soldiers, while the Persian army had a strength of around 250,000. Despite this disadvantage, Alexander forced the Persian Emperor Darius III to flee by setting traps for his enemies, and as his army pursued the emperor, the Persians suffered a defeat. However, Alexander's rule did not last long. He died in 323 BC at the age of only 32. After his death, his empire fragmented and never reunited. Alexander's success was closely associated with many developments that occurred before and during his time. He inherited the legacy of the second Philip and further developed it. Therefore, Alexander is still remembered today as one of the greatest commanders in history, and he will likely continue to be honored in this way for thousands of years to come.